Hello everyone, good afternoon, and a very warm welcome to everyone present over here. Firstly, myself Priyanka, I'm a team member at Hack the Mountains. So our hackathon Hack the Mountains 2.0 has started, and I hope you guys are having a great time there. So we are back with another module here, getting started with Draftbit, and for this we have our speaker Aman Mittal. So we have loved the support we have got so far and expect the same with this session too. So let's get started with the session. Are you one of those people who want to know what Draftbit is all about and want to start your own customized journey using it? So here is your chance to be introduced to what Draftbit is all about. This session is dedicated to all the beginners and helps you as a guide and help you dive deeper into Draftbit and its working. So to guide you through this session, we have us Aman Mittal. He is a developer advocate in Draftbit. His experience in the field makes him more than qualified to introduce you to the working of Draftbit. So without delaying any further, oh, I'm handovering the session to our speaker Aman.
Thanks, Priyanka. Hello, everyone. I'm Aman Mittal, as Priyanka introduced. I'll be sharing my screen today, and I'll be giving a short presentation on what Draftbit is, and then we can go through Draftbit itself and see how it works. So, as the title is getting started with Draftbit, so it's just a introduction of how you can use Draftbit to build cross-platform mobile applications. So yeah, I'm a developer advocate working at Draftbit. I've been working there for past 4 months. So let's get started. Draftbit is a no-code, low-code platform to build mobile apps. It basically gives you a visual interface inside your web browser that you can use to create application screens and do interactions inside your application. That how you would do using code. Uh, Basically, Draftbit is based on React Native. So the core functionality of Draftbit is based on React Native and Expo. And Expo is, again, a framework that is built on top of React Native. So utilizing those two awesome frameworks and Expo services, Draftbit is able to give you a complete building tool that that can be used in various ways, different web browsers. Like we support mostly all web browsers. I just want to go through some of the main features of Draftbit that we have yet, and then we can get started with the hands-on experience. So yeah, Draftbit has the main reason Draftbit exists is that we want you as a developer, we want you as a developer to have a fast and focused development experience. That said, that Draftbit helps you reduce a lot of constraints that comes with code when you're trying to build your app or your project, even as an individual or as in a member of a team. So the main advantage of Draftbit is that you don't have to go for iOS or Android or PWA. They all have their different constraints that comes in the tech world, and I think using Draftbit, you don't have to worry about all of these three platforms. You can easily build one interface, one application, and that can be run on iOS, Android, and PWA at the same time. Draftbit also gives you access to the source code. That way you are not locked in inside just using Draftbit. So you can anytime easily download your whole source code. The source code is generated in using React Native and Expo framework. So that is not something that Draftbit is forcing you to learn something new or something that is not as popular, because React Native and Expo both exist since around 5 to 6 years, and they have a strong community if you want to customize your application and add some features that are beyond Draftbit capabilities at the current moment. Uh, Another great feature about Draftbit is that you can not only build UI designs in Draftbit, or I should say user experiences, but you can also bring your real-time data either through a REST API endpoints or either through Firebase. If you have a Firebase backend, so you don't have to, you're just not constrained with just building some UI, and Draftbit allows you to build end-to-end applications. So yeah, you can use any kind of data integration. Also, like on REST API integration, I would like to add that Draftbit currently supports almost any kind of REST API, but for most things like Airtable, Xano, Bubble CMS, Webflow CMS. So if you already have your application or your project's database, or like if you're using one of those CMSs, you don't have to like create something new for Draftbit. You can easily reuse them inside your Draftbit app. Some more features that Draftbit takes care of is completely from a designer or a developer's point of view. Draftbit support a theme that you can easily modify and that you can edit or add your own custom values to it. Draftbit also supports modern day typography fonts and icons. So you don't have to look elsewhere. Mostly these fonts are commonly used and liked by the community of developers and designers alike. And these icons also comes from major icon libraries like Design or Iron Icons or Font Awesome. Uh, there are tons of reusable and example screens available right now in Draftbit that you can reuse, or you can create your, like modify them and add to your own application instead of starting from scratch. And you can have multiple collaborators working on one app. So Draftbit also doesn't holds you back that you have to be like a single user can only work on one app, and you can have multiple people working at the same time. Uh, Last thing that I want to before we get on to the hands-on experiences, that I want to give you the overview of what Draftbit looks like. Uh, Basically, these are some of the common constraints, or like some of the terminology that Draftbit comes with. Like, yeah, we should go for the builder and let's see how this comes in. So once you go to your Draftbit site, if you already have an account, you can sign in. Once you are signed in, you will be welcomed by this personal workspace. This workspace is like a dashboard screen where you will find all your Draftbit apps and other features that Draftbit offers. So why don't we start with creating a new app from scratch and see how it goes. To create a new app, you will click on this Create App button. You can add your app name and your app description. Then you can just click the continue. Draftbit offers you some, as I said before, also that there are some available example screens and that are designed after looking at some common mobile app screen patterns. For example, how a vertical list should look like, or how a horizontal list should look like, or how a feed screen looks like in a social media app. So Draftbit comes with those kind of screens. But if you want to select like one of them and start from there, you can do that. But I'm going to start from with a blank screen so that we can see how it comes together. Once it's done initializing, you can click Start Building button, and the builder interface will open. Inside the builder interface, this is like the main navigation panel, or you can say like builder-wide controls, where you can navigate to different options or functionalities available inside Draftbit. We'll come back to this. This is the screens panel where all of your app screens are listed individually. So for example, currently we have one blank screen which doesn't have anything on it. The layout panel shows what components are being used in that screen. So once you have selected a screen, all the components that you would see would go inside here. This is the canvas mode where when you add a component and like we are going to see it soon. All of those are going to appear. This is a live preview mode. We'll come back to that later when we have built something. This is a properties panel, as it is called. So basically, a properties panel is divided into 4 subsections. One is for styling. If a component supports styling, for example, a text component needs some styling, of course. It needs some padding, some font size change, some color. You'll be looking into the styles tab to change those properties. The configs tab comes with different configuration depending on what component you are using. So it's again unique to each and every other component. This is a data tab that is only available for a particular set of components. And for example, you want to fetch your own data from your REST API endpoint. So that would come, you will be using this for configuration. And there's an interaction tab that is only available for touchable and button components so that you can add actions. For example, you want to navigate from screen A to screen B. This is the tab or a section you're going to use. This was just an introduction of how Builder looks like. Why don't we start building something and see how it comes with it? I'm going to use some real-time data from a REST API that we already have created. Like this is a mock REST API that gives you some dummy data to be used, and I'm going to use this example data.draftbit.com. You can also like reuse it in any project, even if it's not Draftbit. But yeah, it contains a different set of components that can be used for mocking an app design or an app structure based on some real-time data sets. For example, crypto. If you're building a crypto app, if you're building a feed app, you can use the photos. Or if you're building a clone of a podcast app, you can use podcast data set. I'm going to be using books. Yeah, let's get back to the app. So to initially bring your own data inside the app, first you'll need to click on the data tab, and these are the services that I was talking about before. Since we are not using any of these services right now, let's add our own custom API. And the initial step to add the custom API, REST API, is to create a service first. So a service requires a service name. And so for example, this is called books. And a base URL, which is basically the API URL you're going to hit to bring the data. These are query parameters or paths that are available to each API base URL that I'm not going to include in the base URL because there can be a single API and URL that can have multiple endpoints. So for example, it can have products also, which can have also a limit of 10. So yeah, we'll come back to this. Since this API is free to use and has a public URL, you don't need to add any other headers or authentication. Draftbit comes with the most commonly used headers. For example, like from accepting the JSON data from a response or sending a request with these 2 headers. If you would have a API that is protected by some authorization or some authentication, you can easily add new headers by adding the key to the header or the header name and some other values. The last step is API configuration to when you're adding a service. So I'm not going to touch that because this again, this API doesn't need any other further configuration. But if your API requires, in some cases, then you can definitely add or modify this setting. And last step is to just click save, and your API service is created. Now, when a service is created with its own URL, you can add multiple endpoints. A single endpoint would represent a single path and its parameters. Click on the button add endpoint, and like for example, in our books API, I want to fetch the first 10 records of this API endpoint. So I'm going to say like fetch 10 books. Then I'm going to, like, for example, by default, the HTTP method is selected to get, but yeah, you can have other HTTP methods. So for example, like on the books, this particular endpoint, you can, if you want to add data or submit the data from this app, you will probably using either post or a patch request. If you're updating the data or like deleting something, you would send a delete HTTP request. Once you have named your API endpoint, the next step is to add the path, which is this. And yeah, I won't recommend adding a hard-coded value here like this, because what if you want to use the same endpoint or the path of the base URL, but you might have something like want to fetch 8 records from the API or want to fetch 2 records from the API. So Draftbit takes care of this. You can add a custom variable. So for example, I'm adding here max records that can be later be used when fetching. You can specify its value later inside the Draftbit app in the properties panel. Draftbit also recommends you to test your API endpoints before adding them to the Draftbit app, such that you can verify that your API endpoints are working and they are correct. So, for example, this path or path variable requires a default value or a test value, you can say. So I'm going to put 8 here. It doesn't require any other headers. We have already specified these headers for you. Last point is to test the API endpoint. And if you click the test button, the save button gets available if the API endpoint is working and coming up with a response of like 200 or whatever response, depending on the HTTP method you are sending from your API. Here it is. Here's all the data that the API endpoint we used to fetch. Last step is to just click the save. Now you have a real API endpoint that you can use to show or display data inside your Draftbit app. Let's continue with building the app, because we haven't done anything in the main builder itself. So yeah, when you start with a blank screen, it completely depends how you want to structure your app or how you want to structure your screen. You might have some design if you're building an app from scratch, but if you want some inspiration, Draftbit also comes with some example screens, as I said before. So for example, these are some common patterns. So this could be used in a user profile. This could be used in a feed screen. Probably this is like showing some tags or a grid screen. But yeah, let's try to create something from scratch so that you can see how components are used inside Draftbit. Once you are on your screen, go to the layout tree, click on the plus button to add a layout component. Draftbit comes with different kinds of layout components. So for example, there's a view, a text. There are different kind of buttons available. There's some media components. So for example, image, that is what we are going to use. There are some layout components that you can use. For example, showing data in a row or using a scroll view. And there are some components that are related to some list. We are going to use these two components to display what data we are fetching. And lastly, there are some input control components. So why don't we start with a fetch component inside it, because we initially want to bring some data, and a list component. I'm just adding these components that I require. I will show you how you can drag and drop and rearrange them later. I need an image component to show the cover of the book. I need a text component, and I need a view component. Actually, let's use two text components. This is how you select a layout component in the layout tree, and you can like position it anywhere in between, or if you want to position at the top. Since this is going to be the title of the screen, I'm going to position it at the top. A text component is basically to display a text, either static or dynamic
Excuse me,
text.
sir.
Yeah,
Can you zoom your screen, please? Our audience asked for it.
sure. Is this visible
Yeah, thank you.
now? So yeah, let's go back. The text component is basically to display a text. So for example, I want to say something like books list, and you can like double click it. You can add your own value. You can close it. This is not something that I want, so I'll add some kind of padding to this main screen. Padding is basically adding spaces. The format of adding these values are again like top, left, bottom, right. So for example, you can see how the horizontal padding or the left and the right padding is being worked. If you see these are the white spaces that are being added from the on the text component by the parent component, which is basically the screen here. The text component, let's add some styling to it. I want to change its color to primary. So yeah, Draftbit also comes with predefined color values that you can go to the theme. There's an existing theme. You can edit these values, or you can add your own color values. This is the current value which we are using for the text component. I want to change its font, say 28. And I want to change the type of the font, let's say bold. You can also change its alignment properties. So for example, currently there is no alignment property on this text component, but I want to display it at the center of the screen. So yeah, this is just a general overview of how you can edit a style of a component. Like, second thing is the config. You can also like change the name of the component to display it inside the layout tree. So for example, I want to call it title, and it's changed to title. This way, like if you have like multiple text components and you don't want to get confused while looking at it, you can rename your components. That's the purpose of it. We have already seen this input text field or property. Uh, Basically, if you double click it, or if you can go to the data tab, both works on the text component. The double click part only works for some layout components that are like button or text or input field. They don't work for each and every other component. Draftbit gives you a fetch component that you can use to fetch the data. So for example, this fetch component is going to have a list as a child, because anything that is going to be fetched from the API endpoint that we have added so far is going to be displayed in a list. The list is going to have a view, and the view is basically a container, an empty div component, if you want to say, like a div tag as available in the HTML. So yeah, the idea behind these are same, but it is basically a React Native component that tells you like you can add an empty div container and have multiple children inside it, but then also you can like have some properties styling properties on it. Uh, the view is going to have two children. One is the image and one is the text. Basically, the image is going to show the book cover, and the text is going to show the title of the book. This is just like the bare minimum layout we are creating. But yeah, it doesn't show anything yet because we don't have the service attached to our fetch component. So once, if you want to attach a service to your fetch component, you select the fetch component in the layout tree, you go to the data tab. The first thing you do is select the service name. Our service name, we called it books. The second thing you do is select the endpoint. We have already one endpoint that, and we want to like display those books. This is where I told you earlier that you can have dynamic query parameters that you can pass from Draftbit. So you don't have to hard code and go back to the data type and change every time the value you want to change in some cases. So like, for example, we can add a custom value. Like, for example, I want to show only 6 books items. So yeah, I'll just select 6 and it will only fetch those 6 items. This is again a preview tab that shows, also confirms that your API endpoint is working and shows what kind of data is this particular API endpoint is bringing on. The next, like if you want to display data inside the list, the next step is to select the list component, and there is a data prop in its config tab, in its data tab. You have to select what kind of data you want to display. So basically, this is just one array that this endpoint gives. So I'll select this response, or top level response as it is called. And now you can see like there was only one view component before which had like an image and a text, but now since the data is hooked on the list component, it shows different different items. Currently, the image and the text doesn't have any value, so it's not showing the real data. But yeah, it shows you the currently the like how it is going to be represented once it has the real data. The next thing is that I don't want to touch view right now. Don't need anything else on that. Let's use the image. So Draftbit image component comes with a placeholder image that you can change. You just need to select the image component, go to the data tab. The source type of an image can be a static image, a remote URL, or a data. So basically, in a static, you can upload images to a Draftbit app, and you can reuse them across the app. Second thing is that a remote URL. So basically, this placeholder image is coming from a remote URL. And the third option is data. The data is basically if you're having a REST API endpoint, the way we are having in this app right now, you select the source type to data and the source to the particular data field. So let's see what data field we have for the image, and that is called image URL. So yeah, you need to select that data field. Yeah, here it is. And once you do that, you'll have the image. You can like change its styles and its color. Not the color, but yeah, you can change its position or its width and height. So for example, I want to display the whole cover image. The default values of this image component is that the width is set to a 250 point and the height is set to a 250 point. I want to remove that. Just click them. Just click this yellow indicator, and both of these values would be set to 0, or you can say null. But currently it doesn't show the image because this image component is based on React Native component, so it requires a height to display. So I'm going to use 300 height, and I'm going to set the width to a percentage of 100. So this way I can like set the whole image component to the screen. I can also use the 100% of height to display it correctly. Nope, not working. It might need some more play around, but yeah, you get the idea. Let's add the data to this text component, and I want to change its font size so that it displays the text, and let the color value be the same. So right now, we learned before that you can display a list of a static text value, but you can also like use variable names to display dynamic values from inside a text component that are coming from a data endpoint. All you have to do is like put on some curly braces, give it some variable name, and once you're done with that, it will show here like in the variables options, and then you can select the actual value for this, which is like the title of type string. And here we go. Here's how the text component is displayed. There's no spacing beside it, so that is why I didn't touch view component before. But yeah, now you can like edit the view component. So for example, I want a margin bottom of 20, margin top of 20 on every view. So this is how you would utilize a view component. You would have some children layout components inside it that you want to group together, and then you can like have a parent styling applied to it so that both the components can have some spaces around it or follow the same styling patterns. This is a canvas mode. There are like actually three other modes. So there's a multi-screen mode. If you have like multiple screens inside your app, you'll see all these screens here listed. There's also this preview mode where it shows how the app would actually look like inside a PWA or an iOS or an Android app. Basically, this is a web mode, so it follows the PWA things, PWA rules. So there you go. This is what we built so far, and this is how it's displaying. There's also this live preview mode. If you click on this button, you can scan the QR code inside an Expo Go app. So basically, Expo Go app is kind of a test app environment which comes with Expo. That if you scan this QR code, the application which we are building inside right now in the Draftbit environment, it would show all the changes and the app in the way it looks right now inside that app. So you don't have to like run a simulator or run an Android emulator. That's how you would do for iOS or Android mobile development. I'll also give you a bit of things about other features. You can, if you don't want to touch your code, that's good. You can like publish your apps or deploy your apps directly from inside the Draftbit environment. You can share them if you are working in a team or you just want to show somebody your app in the current state, like privately before publishing it. They would get this link URL, and it would only be like a read-only version. They can't edit your app or add modifications to it. By clicking on the code component tab, you can see like, Draftbit creates or generates all the code that you might write if you know React Native or Expo. So yeah, it does that. You can also like just click the export app button, and the whole application would once it's generated, it would send you the link, and you can like download that link on your email, the whole application code, and follow the structures of how to run that app on your local dev environment. There's an advanced feature at Draftbit that is called custom code. This is basically how you would create a low code or functionalities inside your Draftbit app that are like not exactly supported by Draftbit, but using these either custom functions or custom components, or like you can bring your own third party. So for example, you want to use a third party or an open source package, you can add it here and you can use create a custom component. So yeah, if you require some more advanced capabilities that Draftbit currently doesn't support, you would add you would create a custom code basically. That's it for me. That's it. The overview of this Draftbit application that we built, or as you can say, like complete Draftbit builder. Before like ending this, I just want to say thank you so much for having me. And these are some like two of the links that you can go and try Draftbit out. Draftbit is free to try. You can create your own account. You can use most of the features that we have seen today in the free account. And there's also like a community of Draftbit where we post some guides to how to get you started, some advanced guides, some tutorials, and some release notes that like every week we release some new features inside Draftbit, so you can like check out, or like you can ask for features or ask general questions that you might not be able to do with Draftbit, and we would be happy to help you. I'm also available on Twitter if you guys want to ask questions after this. But yeah, let's do some questions and answers.
Yeah, that was an awesome session, sir. So all the participants, if you have any questions, please post them in the chat box so that our speaker can answer them. Okay, so I guess there are no questions. Thank you, sir, for spending your valuable time with us here. That was a great session. Even the hands-on experience was very great, that we get to learn more about Draftbit, and even the beginners can start their journey here by watching this video. So I hope many members learn this here. And I would like to ask the participants to fill the feedback form that will be shared here in the chat box, so that you will get the participation certificate from Hack the Mountains. So once again, thank you so much, sir, for this wonderful session, and thanks for all the participants for supporting us, and hope to see you in your next sessions.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, thank you.